Hello and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So I have another review here of a pen from Eric at Atelier Lusso, and I just want to show you the pen here and do a writing sample so you can see this pen. Now this is a custom made pen, a pen that I had 7 pens made by Eric in a single order. Eric sent me this lovely thank you card. Thank you very much, you rock, Eric. And actually, Eric, you rock too, because these pens are absolutely gorgeous. So it comes in this sort of black, like faux, like leather type box, clamshell box. Has Atelier Lusso bespoke writing instruments there. If I open the clamshell box, I have a Atelier Lusso sticker there. I have a business card there that you can see, and you can contact Eric with if you would like one of these pens or a different material pen. Comes with a cleaning cloth as well, which is always a nice touch. And then you have the pen here in its bed. So let me remove the box, and you can see here this is the Atelier Lusso Andromeda. And this is the Wyvern Serpent, or as I call it, the Dragon pen. I was after a pen with a dragon on, or a serpent, and I was looking at a number of different rods. So this pen is not only a custom-made pen, but it's a material that I hand-sourced myself from a number of different rod sites. I was looking at 2 or 3 rod sites, and this was one of the rods that really spoke to me. And I decided to get this, and you can see here why. So this is a lovely like wyvern serpent or dragon. And technically it's a serpent, but I call it a dragon. But you can see here it's a white pen with a lot of this bronzy gold orangey going on here with the chatoyance. Then it goes into a bit of a green, and I thought that was a really nice touch. And you see down here, further on down the body, it becomes more white, but it's a lovely pen. So I handpicked this material and said to Eric, "Look, can you procure this and make a pen out of it for me?" And Eric said, "Sure, I can definitely do that." Now, this pen, because it's an Andromeda, the size of the pen is a pretty much cylindrical pen, so it's pretty much like a rod would come to the pen maker, and then they just cut it down to size and then maybe shape it. But this doesn't have any shaping done. So the diameter here at the top to the bottom it is the same all the way through. You have a cap finial here. I asked Eric if he could put a coin finial in place, so he has an L for Lusso. He has now since changed this to a dragon. So on future pens that you will probably see a dragon there instead. Now this material is absolutely stunning. You can see how chatoyant this is and how much it really looks on camera and how much it shines. Now you can see here that the cap is almost has a seamless seam there to the barrel, to the body of the pen. So if I unscrew the cap, you'll see here it comes with a similar material for the body and the cap. Now Eric did say with this particular rod there wasn't enough to make a section with. He could have a standard white one here, or a different colour of my choosing, or I said, well, let's just buy another rod. And so we bought another rod because I wanted it made in the same material as this pen, and that's exactly what he did here. And I really love this. So it comes with a Jowo number 6 nib. This is a broad nib, steel nib. I've got this on all of my Atelier Lusso pens. I love how these nibs write from Yovo, especially the broad nibs. They're very smooth, very wet, or fairly wet. And you can see here the length of the pen is quite a long pen. Now, because of the shape of this pen, you cannot post the cap. It's not designed to be posted, but that doesn't bother me. I actually very rarely post a cap myself. But you can see here this material, it really does look lovely, and I love to be able just to put the cap on the desk here and just watch the dragon or the serpent whilst I'm writing with it. Now, in terms of the section, now there is a big step down. I know this does bother some people. It doesn't bother me. The threads here are quite smooth. The section on these Andromedas does taper down quite a lot. You can see here with the nib collar there. But I find that the way I hold these pens, my finger and thumb is here, so it doesn't touch the threads at all. Even if I hold it up here, the threads, I really don't feel all that large step down. So for me, that's not a problem. Now, if I unscrew this, this is a cartridge converter, and Eric does provide a standard Schmidt converter, and this holds 0.7 milliliters of ink. If I just screw this back up, there's quite a lot of threads there, but I prefer more threads than less threads personally. Now, in terms of this material here, you can see, if I just, let me put the cap back on so it doesn't dry out so much, but you can see here the material, this white, is actually quite sort of almost like mother of pearl type white going on there. It's a really, really lovely pattern. And I love this bronzy, orangey, swirly effect that goes on, and likewise here as well. And then obviously the serpent there and its head, or the dragon. It's really, really nice. Now, for me, I really do like this pen, and I like that I was able to handpick it. These pens are the Andromeda range, so these start at around about $199 with a Yovo steel nib. You can upgrade that to a gold nib. You can have a clip on here if you wanted to. You could have cap rings. All you need to do is really convey to Eric what you're looking for in a pen, and he will be able to make it for you. And you can even actually either choose material that he already has, or choose material from a rod manufacturing or retailing site, which is effectively what I did here. But you can see here this pen is really, really stunning. This is one of my favourites at the moment, along with my King Cobra as well. And it's a pen that I really do love. So for me, this is a pen that ultimately ticks all the boxes. It's not only a good size, a good feel, a good weight. It's a good writer as well with the nib. I think when we choose a pen, we want a pen to be perfect. And in a lot of cases, a pen is never perfect, because you can have the best looking pen, but it doesn't write well, or you can have a really good writing pen, but it's a plain pen. This for me, most of these designs from Atelier Lusso, the material used really actually speaks to me and really makes this almost, I would say, my ultimate pen. There really isn't one thing that I don't like about the pen. I like the design. I think if anything, and this is an absolute real nitpick, is that when you cut a rod, you cannot, by the time you cut the rod and then you start sanding and smoothing down the cap and the body, you can never quite get these to align here, the material wise. And then you also have multiple threads. So if anything, I would say, and this I know sometimes is a bugbear for some people, is that sometimes those patterns won't fully match up, like you can see here. But for me, I really, it really doesn't bother me at all. I really do like these pens. It's almost impossible to try and have those line up perfectly, because you've got to reduce the material on both the body and the cap a little bit when you're smoothing it. So for me, doesn't bother me at all, but if it does bother you, that's something to bear in mind if you're having a custom pen made. Decide on the material that you want. Maybe it's better going for a more plainer pen if that really does impact your decision there. That you want a pen where the body matches perfectly to the cap. Other than that, though, I really love this pen, and I think Eric does some really, really good work. So I think let's do a size check and weight comparison here. So in terms of size, we're looking at about 142 millimeters in length. The cap is about 63 millimeters in length. And then the body, we're looking at about 132, 133 millimeters in length. So it's quite a long pen. Let's do a weight check. So this pen is fully inked up, and it's just over 26.5 grams in weight. The cap is just over 8 grams. I could almost say that's 8 grams. And then the body, fully inked, we're looking at just under 17.5 grams. So it's a pretty good weight pen. And I really do find that it writes really well. And when I uncap the pen there, I find that this pen sits in my hand really, really well. So for me, I really do like this. It's a pen that I really love writing with. So with that, I think let's do a writing sample. So this is the Atelier Lusso. It's an Andromeda. And it is, I'm going to call it the Dragon. The material is actually the Wyvern Serpent, but I like to call this the Dragon, so I'm going to call it the Dragon. And it's a steel nib, Yovo. It's a broad nib. Now the ink in here is an ink sample that has been sent to me by a pen pal, a very good pen pal, and it's an ink. It actually comes across quite almost like a black ink, but it's actually a dark green ink, and this is a Diamine German exclusive, and this is Diamine November Rain. And I inked this up with this because of the colour here in the cap. It's got a bit of green on it. So I decided I would try this ink sample in here. I think I will probably go with a more lighter green, or maybe an orangey ink because of the orange or goldy, bronzy effect in the barrel here. Now, this is a broad nib, so this is the kind of line variation that you're going to see. You can push the broad nibs a little bit harder and get a little bit more line variation, but you've got to push them quite hard on these Yovo nibs. Now, this is what you're going to really see in terms of line variation, because it's a broad nib. You're really not going to see a lot on those figure of eights. So, for me, these nibs do write very well. And this is one thing I do love about Yovo nibs. Now, in terms of wetness here, you can see how wet this broad nib really is. It's quite wet, but it's not a dry nib. It's quite wet, but it's not fire hose wet, which is where I would say about, at least if it's from half the page here. This is an A5 Rhodia dot grid page. So for me, this is a nice writer. It is quite wet, and I like wet nibs. I also like fire hose nibs as well. But for me, this is a really good writer. It's a consistent writer. and I find that this writes very smoothly. So this is one reason why I started going for a lot of Yovo nibs, is that a lot of pens that I get don't necessarily write like I'd like them to write. These Yovo nibs are very consistent in how they feel, or at least every broad nib that I have had from Yovo is very, very consistent. So for that in mind, although it's a steel nib, it's a stiff nib. There isn't a bounce to it, but that doesn't bother me. If the consistency is there in the nibs, then that's something that I really do go for. So that's the reason why I went for these Yovo nibs. So there you go. That's the review of the Atelier Lusso Andromeda Dragon. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye bye.